heard somebody singing in the booth, and then it came out, and it was Carl Thomas, who's like one of my favorite R&B singers of all time. It was a cool moment. The first show I actually ever did was in Syracuse. I was opening up for Yo Gotti and DJ Drama.
What a first show.
First show, but I did horrible. Like my set was trash bag. If you don't like something else, it doesn't mean somebody else is good or bad. There's some people that are objectively not good. If I'm just saying that, yeah, I got ties with the hood. I could do both. Like I could turn you ghost, and then you'd be like, yeah, like it's like the bars are there, but like something about them, like I don't know. But if I'm like, I got ties with the hood, I could do both. My veins are popping in my head, and you're like, oh wait, he means this.
He's appeared on the Radar. He was on season 2 of Netflix's Rhythm and Flow. You may have heard his music in commercials for Nike and Foot Locker, and he was featured on Spotify's Fresh Finds playlist. Jacques Laine, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Super excited.
Yeah. Happy to get to talk to you, learn more about all these experiences, music, and you beyond the music as well. And so to start things off kind of in that more like personal vein, just for music, what got you into it growing up? And was there like, how did your family feel about like trying to pursue it as a career?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up a hip hop fan, raised in Newburgh, New York. So that's a bit upstate New York. But grew up a huge hip hop fan. So I grew up listening to everyone under the sun, from Hove to Nas, a lot of Mobb Deep, a lot of Biggie, classic New York hip hop for sure. But also, classic Southern hip hop. So some Outkast, UGK, etc. Then classic West Coast hip hop, BJ Quick, Pac, Dre, Snoop, all of them. So grew up a fan of hip hop, started making music, playing around with it, beginning of college. And yeah, I mean, at that point, I was just making music just to make music. Wasn't sure how far I could take it. Was doing it for the passion. I'm a big fan of storytelling, telling other people's stories, shedding light on a lot of overlooked perspectives. I think that's the beauty of hip hop. You're allowed to showcase some of the more overlooked areas of life. And so that's what got me into it. But like I said, a fan first and foremost of hip hop, and just took it from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I think for basically everyone in music, it starts with the passion, the love of it, but you've attained so much in that time, sync placements, playlists, becoming a member of the Recording Academy. Like from what you've accomplished, if there are any like smaller artists, smaller rappers listening to this, what would you say is like a good goal to aim for of those things, or like which of these really helps kickstart a career?
Yeah, I think the first thing you have to focus on is what you want to put out into the world. I think that's the case for anybody that's creating something new, whether it's music, art, film, TV. Understanding what you want to put out, understanding the stories you want to tell, and understanding how you want to brand yourself. From that point, you can create small goals, right? Like I didn't start making music saying, I want to make music for the Super Bowl or the NFL, and I want to be in Nike commercials, right? It was more so like, hey, I want 100 people to listen to the song. I want people to hear the song, and I want it to resonate. And then from that point, I created another goal, which was build my following, which was work on my craft and connect with people more. Sharpening my verses, sharpening my hooks, trying new beats, thinking outside the box. So starts inward. From that point, you're able to make like smaller goals. But when you make super lofty goals, it's a bit intimidating. Like I said, I didn't start making music thinking I would even be able to sit at the Grammys, let alone vote, and be involved in such a massive honor in terms of awards for my peers. So I think it's starting inward, seeing what you want to put out there, and then from that point, making small obtainable goals, and then you stack up wins, right? Like there's a lot of setbacks, a lot of frustrating moments in music, but you stack up small wins until it becomes a big win, and that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a lot of this also came, I mean, you're like super intelligent and academic, like being a Wharton student, things like this as I mean, hopefully listeners and even myself being in school while trying to get into the music industry, how did you balance academics and music, everything like that, or what advice would you have for balancing that?
Yeah, I think it's just about prioritization. What's important to you. Like you gotta say no to a lot of things, right? But let's say you prioritize two things. Let's say you want to, I don't know, become a rapper and you're working a 9 to 5. There are a bunch of other things you could be doing on top of that, right? You could be socializing, you could be hanging out, you could be doing a whole bunch of things. But once you set your priorities, you have to allocate the proper amount of time to make sure those things are getting the attention they need, right? Like I'll know if I'm not putting enough time in my writing, and
Yeah.
like maybe a hook isn't coming quick enough to me, or the verses that I'm writing through my writing drills are not like connecting, or something's missing, and I'll be like, okay, how do I like shift my focus and realign and make sure I'm giving that the proper attention. Same thing with school, right? School is a little bit easier because you know if you're doing well or not, right? If you're getting homework back, problem sets back, and getting like B's and stuff, and you want to get A's, it's like you have to put more attention toward that. End of the day,
Yeah.
um, I'm not in school to become like the super duper academic. I'm here to learn specific skills. And so there may be points where I might um, not put in as much time on an exam for a class that I don't think is super important for what I want to do. And I might go to studio instead, or, drive up and do a freestyle on the platform, or fly to LA and listen to beats. But a lot of it is about sacrifice and prioritization.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And so now getting into just like you as a rapper, as an artist, and your own music with your latest song, Away, just take us into like the creation of that and how that came about.
Yeah, so always produced by Dizzy Benko. So he produced, a bunch of big New York records, big records in general.
Yeah.
Um, is one of the big ones he's done. He did some records with Pop Smoke before he passed. I knew Diz since I was like, I want to say 12 or 13. So, and he's been making beats since. So like when people say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, I think Diz is a perfect example, right? Like here's somebody that I literally saw making beats on FL when we were like teenagers, and now he's like being nominated for Grammys.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, we we were friends. We've been friends for a minute. I think around that time he had like a studio upstate, and I would come by and he would play me some shit he was working on, and I play him some things I'm working on, and we just bounce ideas off each other. He's a very creative person. And those are one of the beats. Oh, it was one of the beats he played, and resonated immediately. It's a classic boom bap, dope sample. Um, and yeah, I mean, from there it was pretty much go time. I knew I wanted to write to that song. OA is short for BOA, which is short for Bank of America. Bank of America. Um, and so it's kind of like a double entendre. Like on the surface, people think it's about scamming. Um, people hear OA in New York and they're thinking like scamming, everything's lit, all that. Really, it's about bank systems in America, how banks can fail, how
Mhm.
institutions can fail people that they're supposed to protect, right? And so
Yeah.
you have, deposit insurance and all these other things, and then you have bank crashes that tend to happen. Institutions tend to fall. '08 housing crash, Silicon Valley Bank crash a couple of years ago, and so it's like, what do you do? How do you feel secure about these things? And it's the juxtaposition between that and what we think about. We think about individuals scamming, doing whatever to these banks. It's like, all right, who are the real villains? Or
Yeah.
people playing the game? And so that's what the meaning of the song is, on both services.
Yeah. Would you say you bring in a lot of that like New York slang, New York culture into your music, both like songwriting wise, message, all of that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is this is how we grew up. This is how I talk. I don't
Yeah.
change how I speak. Wherever I am, it could be me speaking to CEO of Nike. It could be me speaking to one of my friends from back home. My engineer, I speak the same way all the time, and um, be like I show up the same way I do in my life as I do in my music, and so it's everything is is part of the culture. Um, I try to add new meaning to what people are familiar with. I think that's the thing I can bring to music, right? So when one rapper might make a song called OA, you might get a different. It might be on a drill beat. It might be something that's a little bit more direct. Me, I'm trying to add additional meanings um, to what we take for granted in culture and slang and all these other things, and push people to really think about things and shed light on important things happening in the world, right? Like there's a lot of shit happening in the world, and music is the best way to call attention to it. But also you have to do it in a way that's entertaining, exciting. You got to give them bars, and that's the type of shit I grew up on. So
Hey heroes, sorry to interrupt that podcast episode, which I hope you are enjoying, but I wanted to tell you about my clothing line, Quest Clothing. Ever since I started really pursuing YouTube and music and all these creative things that I do, I've dreamed about starting this clothing line specifically. I had the name, I had the idea like for years before I started it, and now it's finally here. You can wear clothes like this. I have sweatshirts available, t-shirts, even clothing for like my music with cover arts and lyrics and things like that. It's all super, super cool. And right now is the best way for you guys to support me across everything I do. So be sure to check out the Quest Clothing web store with the link in the description and follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates about collections, discounts, things like that. Anyways, I don't want this self-sponsorship to take too long, so let's get back to the episode. One of your biggest songs, or at least most stream songs, sponsored with Kai Cash. How does that collaboration come about? How did you like form that connection and get this song done?
yeah, actually, I met Cash. I met Kai back in like, damn, I want to say 2019. We
Hmm.
went to we did this like big trip to Antigua. And I first met him there. He was cool, one of my homies, Steph. And Steph had connected me with Kai and we chopped it up. And then another time I was in LA during Grammy week and I think Kai was recording. Randomly, we went to the studio and I remember I walked in and Kai was there and a few other people I know were there. And I heard somebody singing in the booth, and then it came out, and it was Carl Thomas, who was like one of my favorite R&B singers of all time. It was a cool moment. So then fast forward a couple of years, I came across this beat, super super energetic, and it's just a fun song. Um,
Hmm.
and I did the Nike campaign, and I was like, oh, that like this is fire, right? Like it's my first brand campaign to giving me clothes for free. I felt like I was sponsored, and rap is
Yeah.
but it's the only sport where you don't get um sponsored for real. Like you get brand deals, but you're not really a couple big
It's
rappers.
it's not like the athlete sponsorships where you're
Yeah,
like
like
getting shoes and like helping
yeah,
with the designs and things like that.
exactly. Like a couple the biggest rappers will get, a pair of shoes,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like it's not the same. Unless you're Travis Scott or Drake, like you're not gonna get that. And so that feeling of being sponsored, getting the brand deal, etc., feels good. And so I made that song and the way like Kai, I like the way he pops. He pops his raps and pops his shit. So um did the verse pretty quick. Like I was just
Yeah.
like walking around the Woodbury Commons actually. I was shopping for a vacation. Uh and wrote the song in like 10, 15 minutes. I sent him a draft. He was, oh yeah, I like this. I'm rocking with it. I told him, yo, just go crazy. And yeah, he gave me a crazy verse back and then dropped it after the Nike campaign dropped and then flew to Atlanta where he was and shot a video. So it was dope.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then take me to you brought up like 2019-ish. Is that it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's about when you opened up for Cause, right? The
Yeah, so I
or
started opening up for Coz's tour, I think 2018, 2019.
yeah.
Uh, and that was like I had never been on a tour before. I think the first show I actually ever did was in Syracuse. I was opening up for Yo Gotti and DJ Drama. And yo, I did
What a first show.
first show, but I did horrible. Like my set was trash bags. Like I couldn't have had a worse performance. And I knew it was bad. But and it's like, when you like something is bad, but everyone knows, including like the crowd knows, they knows, the artist, like all around, everyone knew it was bad. Um, but it's like you're open. It's like, what do you expect? But at that point, I made a decision to never go into a performance unprepared. And the type of person I am, I like to prepare for everything.
Yeah,
Um, literally everything. I just feel like preparation is like the key to success, like discipline, preparation, etc. And so after that, I started like rehearsing, trying different things, writing down different strategies, practicing in the mirror, feedback from different people, and watching a lot of my favorite rappers and performers. Like, what do they do?
yeah,
How do they get a crowd hype? How do they engage with the crowd? How do they, play with the inflections of their voice to make sure that the live performance is actually a different experience than the recorded performance? And so after that, practicing, then I actually went on tour with Kaz. Um, Another thing that I did was after that first show, I never rapped over recorded vocals before. Again, like I
mm,
always live vocals. That takes a lot of breath control, obviously, and you have to remember your lyrics. But like if you think about hip hop in its origin, people were rapping live, right? Like
yeah,
freestyles were live. People were going to shows. You heard live vocals. It wasn't you play your song with the recorded vocals and you're just dancing around and doing ad libs. Like if
yeah,
you if people want to hear that, you would just stay home and play people's records at the crib.
yeah,
And it's probably more comfortable doing that. And in your crib. Right? Why'd I pay money for that? And so a few people did it super well. I think Hove does it well. I think Kendrick is one of the best when it comes to live vocals, like breath control, the inflections, the animations, the delivery. And so after that first show, always did live vocals. Opened up on tour for Kaz in a bunch of different cities after dropping my first project. And it was dope. First project was like very much boom bap, but I that was my first time experiencing acquiring new fans from just a performance. Like people were like coming up to me afterward, asking for my Instagram, asking for, links to my music. There are people that still hit me up from like those first shows. Um, whenever I drop something and they support the music still. So it was a dope part of the journey.
yeah. That's awesome. You mentioned this like huge amount of preparation you do and that kind of work ethic. Did you have that going into the audition of Rhythm and Flow, or what was your preparation for that like before stepping on stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like the audition that people see, like you have to audition for the show before you go and audition for the show.
Okay. Yeah.
The most important audition is actually one that the ones are the ones that people don't see, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The ones before the show auditions.
exactly, yeah. So it's not like they call you and like, oh, you're in Rhythm and Flow. You're like, oh, bet, let me go to Atlanta, like, and go on TV. Like, no, you have to like be interviewed. You have to do background checks. You have to audition multiple times for multiple different people on tape that they send to executives. You have to freestyle on the spot. Like those are the real auditions.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like by the time you get to the stage, like yeah, it's an audition, but you're making a show. And
Yeah.
so when you're making a show, there are other elements that are introduced that are beyond your control. And so at that point, it's like how good of a show can they make, right? Versus when you're auditioning for the show, it's like they're probably thinking about how you can fit in with the cast, what your story is, all this other stuff. But you still have to show up. And so, I applied for the show. And did some auditions across like 3 months, did interviews, storyboards, etc. And so that was like the beginning of the prep, to be honest. Like
Hmm.
just being able to like sit in a room of strangers and they point a camera on you and you're supposed to just sit there and rap. Um,
Yeah.
I think I was pretty prepared because one, I prepped myself, and so like practicing my lyrics, standing in the mirror, like practicing, stage presence, moving around, what I want to look like. And so that's why I think practicing the mirror is actually very important for performing because you want to know what you look like to other people, right? Uh,
Definitely. Yeah.
and so you can just practice to a wall, but you'll never know what you look like. So I'd record myself, I'd watch myself in the mirror, I'd practice. When do I want to take breath breaks? When do I want to just like leave a word out? When do I want to add things in, whatever. And so, yeah, that was like the beginning of the prep for the show itself. You write a song for the show's performance. It's nothing that you performed before, so it's your first time performing that song,
Yeah.
audition with. So I think that's a little bit different, right? Versus performing something for your catalog, where you're a little bit more comfortable, and now you're performing something that you wrote for the show. So it's not like I'm about to go there and like do some classic Jacques shit. I'm also
Yeah.
gonna make something that is gonna appeal to a wide audience, right? So whether you want to pick a flow that's more accessible, whether you want to dumb things down, whether don't want to make something that's too convoluted, you want to make it accessible for TV. And so part of the prep and writing that was making sure that if I do a bar, like I don't want it to completely go over people's heads. Kind of gotta, I don't want to say dumb it down, but like you got to make it a little bit easier for people to understand.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing for me was representing where I'm from, representing myself, etc., and putting out something that I'm proud of. Because outside of that, you can't control what people are gonna say, what producers want from a show. Like it's a show, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a business school student. I'm decently smart. I kind of know how these things work. But for me, the biggest part is about telling my story, and so that's why even the documentary footage I shot that myself because I wanted
Oh
to
wow.
control what was put out there about my life, my story, and my city, because who else can tell it better than me? And
Yeah.
so that was part of like me even going on the show was like I want to include my own footage because the storytelling aspect is the most important part of hip hop.
Yeah.
Whether someone music taste is subjective. If you like something, that probably just speaks to your background, what you tend to like, etc. Versus if you don't like something else, it doesn't mean somebody else is good or bad. There's some people that are objectively not good. But everyone has their own unique play on things. So like, some people might be like, hey, I hate his voice. Some people might be like, oh, I love his voice. I
Yeah.
hate the puts bars together. Some people like, I love it. Like it really depends.
It's just taste and what you like, and that,
Just
and then that taste and what you like is affected by like what you listen to and what you grew up listening to and all that.
exactly. And then also everybody, back then we had tastemakers to sort of define taste and opinions and all these things, right? I think 2012, 2013, it was the blogs. And these were music experts that would tell you, hey, these are the next rappers coming up. These are the mixtapes you should listen to. Then you have, the rap reviews, Double XL, the source saying like, hey, this album is fire, this album is not. You going into, listen to these albums with an opinion. Now you can get on Twitter and everybody's calling everything mid or everybody's calling everything fire. And it's like
Hmm.
everyone has their own taste and everyone's putting out their own opinions. And it's like you can't listen to things and from your own opinion as easily anymore. There's so many voices now. And so like that subjectivity is actually going to be able to be propagated a bit more because everyone is a mini tastemaker now. And
Yeah.
so a lot of it is just in the preparation was saying like, hey, I know what I want to do. I know what hip hop means to me. Right. Like I grew up in this art form. I've been writing for years. I make music for a specific purpose. I don't make music to be famous. I make music to connect with people. And so if they fuck with it, they fuck with it. If not,
Yeah.
here's what it is. Like it's not,
But yeah,
and
you did a great job showing that on the show. I mean, it adds a whole nother layer of learning that you shot all your like basically storyline footage and all of that. But like watching your performance, I loved it. I got the storytelling, all that, and so I think it's really respectable that you like stay true to yourself and we're like, hey, this is what I do, basically.
yeah, nah, 100%. I think, I could have gone the other way and made something, more poppy or more main and like done it just advance through the show. But I went on the show because I know nobody from where I'm from has been able to rap on that stage, has been on Netflix ever,
Yeah,
especially not for music, especially not for something positive. And so it was never about going on and like playing this game and navigating through what I thought was or people think is success, right? Because it looks different on TV than when you're actually there. For me, it was, yo, put your best foot forward, show up authentically, and be proud of who you are and what you represent. And everything else is outside of your control. And that goes for anything, right? When you show up in class, you go to work, you want to be able to be proud of yourself because we owe that to ourselves. And so, you know, that's what made the experience whole for me. I went on and took the opportunity because I was lucky enough to be chosen and to represent where I'm from, represent that side of hip hop. Because New York hip hop, the rap scene is a little bit different now.
Yeah.
But we have so much talent still, and I think I represent that side of the younger generation that actually can rap, can put bars together, actually has substance in their music, because that's the music that's gonna last.
Are you a music artist looking to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, and basically every platform? Then you should check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution service. It's what I use to get my music out, and I find it really, really helpful. You can set up all the credits for your songs, put in lyrics and even like timed lyrics and things like that, and manage all your releases from one account or one dashboard. It is super helpful, and I don't think I would have gotten started with music as early as I did without DistroKid. So if you're interested in any of their plans, which I'll put on the screen here, and yes, that does say $2 a month for music on all platforms that you need things like that. That's $2 a month. I know some of you spend more on coffee each day than $2 a month to get music wherever you want. But anyways, back to the point. If you use my link in the description, you will get 7% off of any of these plans to make it even cheaper. Plus it has so many cool features to help with your music, like pre-save pages, getting it on Instagram and things like that so people can add your music to posts. It is just super, super helpful, and it's what I've used since starting music. Like I said, use the link in the description, check out DistroKid, and get 7% off of any plan you want. Now, back to the episode. Let's go a bit deeper into like your time on Rhythm and Flows. Pretty quick, it sounds like. I mean, the auditions took a while, but actually going to Atlanta and everything was like in the backstage setting. Were there rappers that you like became friends with or have kept in touch with since then?
Yeah, actually, I became friends with Nate Joel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, who's he's from the DMV, but his family's from the Ivory Coast. And then Marcel, um, we talk like all the time. They didn't really get screen time, but like just genuine people. I was actually a big fan of Nate's music before, um, and so yeah, we just connected immediately. I think we see hip hop very similarly, right? It's a medium for storytelling. It's a very important piece of culture, especially Black culture, and um, it's nice to connect with creatives in the space that don't just do things for likes, don't just do things for fame, like actually have a purpose that
Actually
is,
want to do it.
yeah, exactly, like doing it for the love. And honestly, meeting them, I met a bunch of other people that were great too. Um, Chino, who's super dope. She's from North Carolina, and a bunch of other people. And yeah, it made the whole experience worth it. Right? It felt, I honestly felt like, I don't even know how to explain it. It felt like a superhero convention made down there.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know what I mean, like the Justice League.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
you got a group of talented rappers and you're putting them all together.
and there are a bunch of artists that didn't even get screen time.
Yeah.
Like there were literally like 100 of us in Atlanta.
Um,
And so like we're just like talking about different shit, like, oh, you write your bars like this? Oh, I write my shit like this. Oh, you're from here? Oh, when did you start writing music? Oh, what? And it's like getting to know each other through our different creative journeys.
yeah.
And yeah, it was dope, bro. It was literally like a superhero convention. Like we're that I was just like people were freestyling, people like making songs while there. But I think the one thing that reinforces like everyone can bring something unique to hip hop as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and as long as you're doing it authentically. But there's so many sides to rap. Like it's not a monolith. Shit, you can be someone that's from the South, but raps lyrically over fucking trap soul beats. And you know what I mean? And then your story itself is unique. So it's like there's so many ways you can approach the game. And I think um being down there showed how wide the spectrum of talent is in hip hop and how much hope there is. So it's dope.
Yeah, awesome. And again, just back into like being authentically you, representing where you're from and everything. You started Soul Food Sundays, which is like, I mean, freestyle rap, highlighting local businesses, all of that. What inspired you to start such like a meaningful series, or just tell us about like your experiences since starting it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the original point I had, which was this music thing is it's a vehicle, it's a medium. It's there's a purpose behind it if you do it right, and I think everyone, hip hop, whatever you do, if you have a gift, you should use it to have positive impact on people and do it in creative ways. For me, it was just like we're just like, yo, myself, my manager, my creative director, just like, yo, I I was back home from school and I was just like going to my local places. Um, and I was like, damn, it would kind of be cool if I just like shot freestyle videos in these different businesses that I love to frequent so often. And obviously the big thing on Instagram right now is short form content, right?
Yeah,
Vertical content, reels, 45 seconds to a minute, that gets the most engagement because the algorithm boosts those things. And so I was like, we want to do something. We're not dropping music right now, so we want to do something to grow our following. We also want to make sure we can benefit the community. Um, Aside from just patronizing these places and spending money there, you want to, do different things. And I was like, oh,
hmm
just like popped up in these businesses and just like rapped um, and like, created a sort of dedicated series that highlight the city. So that's kind of how it started. I think the one thing we were pretty firm on was not making like food raps, right? Like I'm not actually
yeah.
rapping, so I'm not gonna be rapping about Papa Deli and you know, ragu, but it was more so like, yo, let's get to the point, make punchy bars, but while doing that, highlight different parts of the city.
Yeah.
And it was dope, man. Like every local business that I spoke to, they're super appreciative of it. And that, like, regardless of the amount of views and engagement, that was actually the biggest reward. Like
Just the
appreciation.
community building. Yeah.
Like the owners of these places were like, "Oh, yo, of course, yeah, come shoot. Like, give me free stuff. Like, yeah, come, please shoot." Like, I think it's just important to use your platform to you know uplift others, and getting the appreciation from the owners of these spots and the businesses was super rewarding.
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Published Press. The Published Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators. They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Published Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Published Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Published Press, and get all the info you need on the industry.
With music in general, you've worked with great producers, collaborators, like Grammy winning artists and producers. How has that like have any of those sessions really like helped you grow as an artist, or have you learned things and taken bits and pieces from them to like keep advancing and getting better in your own art?
Yeah, I've been working with a super talented producer and creative named Rojo.
Mhm.
Uh, we worked on a bunch of music. We are working on a bunch of music. And yo, the thing I learned with him, because so a lot of times before I go to the studio, I'll write and sort of like do drafts of songs on my own, because sometimes hearing a song back, I'll actually be able to identify more easily what I want to edit, right? If I'm like, you should take a syllable out here, or like, instead of saying this, say something else because it's easier on the ear to understand, or it's easier for me to deliver, or it just feels better. It's easier to do that when you have drafts. With Rojo, I went in the studio and he was making beats from scratch, and I was creating songs and concepts from scratch. And like I wasn't completely used to that, right? Like I could freestyle on the
Yeah.
spot, but like actual song concepts, doing it with another person in the room was new to me. But I think it's a good talent to have, and it actually makes the records feel more organic, like you're not overthinking them. And so, yeah, that's the one thing I learned was like on the spot creativity, being comfortable with whatever you put out, and being willing to iterate time and time again. But working with Rojo is just like, yeah, he's such a talented producer and creative. Like I've seen him take crazy samples and chop them up into something completely new, and his ability to work a drum machine is insane. And so just seeing us come together and create things from scratch that easily was crazy.
Yeah. And I think it is important to like find that balance of like, you know, written and doing all these takes things versus, like you said, keeping that organic sound. Because I forget I forget who it was, but I was watching some interview with a producer, and they were talking about one of their sessions with like a guitar riff or a guitar sound, and like the mic was just constantly recording, and they got like the first take, and they're like, "Ooh, I like that," and kept trying to like recreate it and whatnot. And then by the end, they had like an entire like folder of takes of this one thing and just all these options they had to comb through. And so his advice was like, you know, keep it like the first take, keep that in mind. Like don't discredit that of like, oh, let's record it for real or make it better. Like that's a legitimate take. And while you can get others, don't like overwhelm yourself with options and things like that because you want to keep that organic feel
Yeah,
in
exactly.
terms, yeah.
No,
In,
that makes a complete sense. I know artists that will only freestyle in the studio. Like I'm not
yeah.
doing because like there are times where you might reflect on the concept the next day and be like, okay, like you might start with a direction and then you have to kind of like iterate on it, build the direction out, build the concept out, etc. So I can't just like freestyle everything, every song. I can just
Yeah.
together, but when you're trying to like put a project together, a concept together, you kind of want to think about it. But like you said, you can't discount the the initial feeling, right? Like
Yeah.
what comes out first, because there's something there. Even if it's like you keep the flow, but you change all the words,
Hmm.
uh, or the first thing that comes to mind conceptually, you keep that, but then you change the flow, or you change the words, or whatever the case may be. But I think you put it very well, which is I used to discount, that initial feeling and say like, that's just I'm just getting warmed up. But
That just gives you the idea. Yeah.
sometimes that initial idea is the one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's a song on our project that we're working on that I'm pretty sure I freestyled the majority of it. And you could kind of hear it in the like bounce of it, and he's producing it, and I'm like listening to the drums, and we're going back and forth, and like that's what that record called for. Again, I'm not gonna do it on every record. Some records
Yeah.
you just gotta sit down.
Sometimes it just fits though.
Yeah, exactly. And then other records you gotta sit down and write a bunch of the same lines over and over again until it's like perfect and everything's connected. And like if you're doing a story in one verse, or you're wrapping up the story, or you're connecting it to the hook. Does every line in the hook make sense? Like, should you repeat certain things more than once? Do the ad-libs make sense? Sometimes you have to really get like very, very granular with it. Other times you get that I just have fun. And being able to recognize the opportunity to do both is like what makes a really good artist.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, in terms of like soul food Sundays, whatever, you know, you mentioned like even just the algorithm and the 45 seconds. Like it seems like you're really in the weeds of like how to do all this short form content, which is so important nowadays. With like, it seems like every rapper and artist needs to like be on social media, be promoting themselves. What's
Mhm.
just like your general thoughts on the way that like Reels, TikTok, all these platforms have kind of influenced the music industry to be like half music, half content, basically.
Yeah. I think at a macro level, everything is based on, you know, consumption,
Hmm.
uh, how you consume information, how you consume content, etc. There was a time where, I was growing up, you didn't have streaming, you didn't have MP3 downloads, you had CDs, right? And, people start to consume things differently. And then the people that are creating those things for people to consume have to adjust. So, when there were CDs, when you're creating a rollout, you'd have the album credits and all that stuff, and you'd have the book you can flip through, and you'd have pictures for that. You don't have that anymore because people listen to CDs, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so when streaming came into play, you kind of had to approach music differently because now people have access to millions and millions of songs, and now because of that, the amount of time they spent on each song is much much shorter. So you can't really make 7 minute songs anymore with a bridge and 3 verses. Now you kind of got to make like 2 verse songs, and you kind of can't let the beat ride out for too long in the beginning. You kind of got to get to rapid because people again are consuming things at such a rapid pace that you want to capture their attention as quickly as possible. The broad level trend with short form content consumption is consumption as well. If you think about everything as a percentage of time that you spend throughout your day, things start to affect each other, right? The more time you spend on social media, the less time you're going to spend listening to a song. And so people, artists will go where people's attention is. Right now, people's attention is on TikTok, social media, Instagram, etc. And so that's where you have to meet them. You have to meet people where they are, and you have to speak the language that they speak. So that's the consumer piece. Then you have to understand the platforms that you're operating within, right? The TikTok algorithm, actually, the Instagram algorithm is meant to reward creators that use Reels because they're trying to compete with TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Trying to compete with TikTok's algorithm. So you can't just post a horizontal 3 minute music video. People are not going to watch that. They may if you have a dedicated fan base, but like if you want to boost your engagement, you should probably make like a short form reel. It should probably be something that's bright. You shouldn't shoot things at night so it can catch your attention. And you should get to the point, right? Like it shouldn't be no 30-second silent intro rolling in and you dapping people up and all that. No, if you're a
Yeah.
rapper, you should probably be rapping the first 5 seconds, right? Because people are endlessly scrolling. What you're posting is just one of the 1,000 things that they're looking at in that day. You make thousands of micro decisions a day. One of the decisions is what you choose to consume in terms of content, whatever the case may be. And then when you're going to these places, these platforms as an artist, yes, you're meeting the consumer where they are, but now you're inviting competition with everything else, with influencers, with news outlets, with sports, film previews, like everything, because we're all in that platform. And so a lot of times music gets pushed to the back, and other things get pushed to the forefront, whether it's like skits, like funny TikToks, whatever the case may be. And so now you have to understand how to compete with these things. The best way you can do that is by understanding the algorithm that you're operating within.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it seems like you definitely do. I don't know how much this had an effect on Soul Food Sundays, but maybe you can talk about it. I also know for Instagram specifically, a big thing they're looking for is like shareability, how much users are like sending it to each other, sharing it, things like that. So I'm sure for Soul Food Sundays that was awesome because like someone who frequents that restaurant sees that and is like, sends it to the friend that they always go there with and is like, yo, look, it's that spot we always come to.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely seem to have a great understanding of what you're doing, which is great because it helps you make the best content you can for that platform or whatever the platform is that you're posting on.
No, 100%. And I think a lot of it's testing and learning too, right? Like
Yeah.
there's mad reels I dropped that were duds. But then there's a couple of reels that like Smoking on Your X Pack. I dropped that as part of a Summer 16 series. That was like almost 500,000 views. And so like you can't if we could all predict how well certain piece of content will do, we'd all be multimillionaires, right? Because then we
Yeah.
would put our resources toward what's going to hit the most. Same thing with songwriting. If you could predict how every time you make a song, how well it's going to perform, you'd be a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
You'd be able to
It's
tell, right? You just sit there making number one hits all the time. But the fun is in experimenting and seeing what people like, what people don't like. Like when I did Smoking on Your X Pack, I shot the video, then I wrote the song. Um, and I knew the story I wanted to put together, but I didn't think it would do as well as it did. Like that, like that's been shared thousands of times, and I got thousands of followers from that, like active followers that hit me up, and I didn't even promote that song, and it's one of my most streamed songs.
Yeah.
Just a freestyle. But then I was like, okay, there's something there, right? Like there's a storytelling, there's a style of rap, there's the way it's shot, there's the lyrics being there. Again, like if you're someone that's lyrical, you should be transcribing your lyrics so people can understand it, because that's another form of engagement. People can hear things, but when they're reading things and they're connecting what they're seeing with what they're hearing, then you have the potential to gain a new fan. And so, I mean, like we both said, it's about experimenting, seeing what works, and doubling down on what works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get into as one lesson in terms of like socials and things like that is just actually the on the radar freestyle that you did. I've always been curious because like it is a freestyle, but like obviously you have in your mind like, oh, I'm filming for on the radar whatever date and whatnot. So like how much preparation did you put into that versus like true freestyle, like getting in there and just spitting?
Yeah, I think the preparation of freestyle platforms, as I grew in my artistry, I realized is really about the performance of it, right?
Mhm.
Like if I'm rapping at you, like, yeah, like, oh, I got ties with the hood, I could do both, like da da da. I'm kind of like walking through it. I'm sleepy. Like it's not believable, right? Like the animation, the deliverance, the delivery, the like excitement, like that is actually what counts. And I think back to my favorite freestyles, and I watch before I go on a freestyle platform. I watch hundreds of different freestyles. It could be people that I don't know, people that I do know, just to see like, all right, what are they doing that I really like. And a lot of it comes down to the performance, right? If you see somebody like rap, like really, really rapping, like the people that you really believe are the people that are like delivering the lines like, I really live this. And
Yeah.
so that's what I focused on. I could rap up and down all day, backwards, whatever. But what I had to work on was actually performing and delivering it. And so you'll see like the on the radar freestyle versus what some of my other freestyles when I'm like standing up, I have a bigger presence in the on the radar freestyle. I'm
Mhm.
like, having fun with it. I'm smiling. I'm really delivering it because it is a performance. I think Tyler the Creator does that really well. His animation, and his delivery and his performance and his like stage presence. It it makes you want to be engaged.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so the prep for that was really just like, yo, how do I make sure my presence is known? And again, just being in the mirror and like anything I'm rapping, just like making, because I knew I'd be standing, I knew what it would look like. I would imagine myself there, or record myself, and just try different things. And it's like you don't want to be sitting there stiff and kind of just rapping. Like some people, like singers, you can kind of be, pretty stationary and pretty still and sing because people are focusing on your vocals. When
Yeah.
you're a rapper, you're a performer in a different sense. And so when you're rapping, you're moving around and you're doing the X,
Yeah.
Y,
The
Z.
body language is part of it.
It's part of it because you want to believe what this person is saying. But again, if I'm, just saying that, yeah, I got ties with the hood, I could do both. Like I could turn you ghost, and then you'd be like, yeah, like it's like the bars are there, but like something about them, like I don't know. But if I'm like rapping, I got ties with the hood, I could do both. And then my veins are popping in my head, and you're like, oh wait, he's dead ass. He means this. Like
Yeah.
this is his life.
It's seeing like the emotion in a rapper or performer versus like seeing them try to like come up with rhymes and connect it in their head.
Exactly. That's it, it's like it's the emotion behind it, and like I think I always had that emotion when I'm rapping, right? Any freestyle, you can
Yeah.
kind of see like I mean what I say, but it's like the performance of it all, like the animation. That when you think about your favorite rappers, like Tupac, one of the most animated. When he was rapping, he was moving around like he was feeling it.
Yeah.
Not everyone has to be like that, but people like Pac, people like Andre 3000, Kendrick, like he doesn't just sit there and rap on a mic.
No.
He's going around. He's smiling at the camera. He's
Look at what he just did at the Super Bowl.
he's like he's active. animated, moving around. Like he's throwing his voice in different directions, different pitches. So that's really what it was. It's like, all right, this is a huge platform. I'm trying to get on the radar for like 3 years. And I was like, all right, I've been able to rap really well for a long time, but that's not the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
It's like, how convincing can you be? Because you get on those platforms, you want to get as many fans as possible that may be engaging with that platform. And it's like, if you had 30 seconds to convince someone to support you, how do you want to do that? Right. And again, part of it goes back to being authentic and being you. Another part of it is like giving your best performance possible.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's the dope part about Rhythm and Flow, was like, I wanted to stay true to myself because I wanted people to support me from that show that would go and support the rest of my music, because the rest of my music is also aligned with who I am. Right. I didn't want to do like a switcheroo, rap one way on the show just to rap on the show, and people listen to my music and like, he doesn't sound, this is nothing like what I heard on TV. Like, what? But now people come to my music and like, this is what I was looking for. Like, I wanted people to see me and find someone who is lyrical, who represents New York in that golden era of hip hop, and then support me because of that. Right. I don't want someone to be like, oh yeah, he was rapping on trap beat. Like, yeah, I want some more trap music from Jacque. And then they get to my catalog, they're like, he's rapping on, why is he so lyrical? Like, why did he do a trap song if that's not who he is? Like, nah, you want people to watch the show, and if they support that type of music, or they support you and your story, or like the style you represent, you want those people to find you. Right. I think, again, music is subjective. There are people that are fans of a bunch of different types of music. As an artist, your job is to find the people that want to listen to you, right? It's not to convince people that wouldn't listen to music ever to go and listen to it now, because they owe you that. They don't owe you that, right? No one owes you their time. But what you do want to do is connect with people that you know will be a fan of your music. So whether, I have a lot of East Coast fans that listen to my music, some West Coast fans. It's a pretty wide range, but like, I don't want people come to my page looking for drill music. I don't make drill music. I want them to come to my page looking for R&B. I don't make I can't sing. I wish I could. But, unfortunately I can't. So, you need these bars. And if that's what you're looking for, then come and support me, because that's what I can give you. It's a product, it's a service. At the end of the day, and people's time is even more important than the money. So
and so in terms of that, like finding people who want to listen to you and maybe just don't know about you, but they like similar artists, similar sounds with your own music, what song of yours would you recommend as like a first listen, or like, this is Jacques Laine?
Yeah, I'd say Piano Riff. It's probably the song that I'd recommend. Like, when people are like, yeah, I just followed you on Instagram, like, what should I listen to first? I usually tell people Piano Riff. I feel like, that's like 4.5 minutes of me just rapping, about where I'm from, about me. And it has that gritty feel, and it'll give you a good sense of what you're in for if you're on this journey to support me. And it's just bars on bars, and it's energetic, it's animated, etc. And it's the production is crazy too. It also samples one of my favorite artists, Jay-Z. So I usually tell people Piano Riff is like the one to go to.
Yeah, awesome. And so with a couple more, I guess, like hypothetical questions to start wrapping things up here. If you could make a song with any artist or rapper in the world, who would you want to collaborate with?
Man, rappers a few. Andre 3000 for sure. Lupe Fiasco, Kendrick. People that I just like learn from other people outside of music. I think the world doesn't give enough credit to people that are experts in their craft anymore. I think everyone is a generalist, which could be, it's nice to know a little bit about a lot of things, but I think it's also important to know a lot about a few things. And collaborating with artists that are really, really, really good in their craft. I can stand to learn a lot. Because I'm still pretty young in doing this, right? Like I've been making
Yeah.
music for that long. And so like linking up with a Ghostface Killer or Raekwon, who's been doing this at a high level for so long, you can learn so much, right? Even if it's like, oh yeah, this is how I put these bars together, or like, I actually don't do 16s, I do, 24s, whatever the case may be. It's like, all right, you can learn a lot just by observing someone in that element.
Yeah.
You put them in a very creative element, and you can pick up on things, and you can get better. And shoot, they might learn from you, right?
Yeah. And even beyond like the musical things, just how to stay rapping for that long, how to stay relevant for that long, keep fans and everything.
Exactly. Which is like by far one of the most impressive things if you look at people's careers, because to my earlier point, consumption of music has changed so much. People were playing records or record players, A side, B side, like that. Those terms came from people having to flip the record over from one side to another. And it came and went to CDs, to MP3 downloads. Think about Napster, to actual live streaming on your phone. Now you have music AI tools where you can remix different songs and play with stems and different things like that. And so as music and consumption changes, you as an artist have to understand ways to keep your fans, right? And that's impressive. Like hip hop is 51 now. Like to go through all those modes of consumption and still be around. Like I was watching Ghostface freestyle the other day, and he was rapping his ass off. Like
Yeah.
I was like Iron Man, Tony Stark, like Ghost, just like tearing shit down. I'm like, that is insane. And people don't give enough credit to people that become experts in their craft and really dedicate themselves to a craft, because it's impressive when the work pays off, because at that point, you're able to operate at such a high level for such a long period of time. If you look at LeBron, LeBron isn't just LeBron because he's LeBron. Like, yeah, he is, but like he also works very, very hard to be able to do this.
He's LeBron because he's LeBron, but he's LeBron because he worked to get there.
Which is a LeBron thing. Like,
yeah.
It's very circular. But Kobe, rest in peace, like he had the same work ethic. Talent can take you to a certain place. Discipline, hard work, dedication can take you even further. So
yeah, that's why. I mean, also just like being from Los Angeles was a huge thing of it. But like Kobe, even today, is like number one or towards the top of like just idols for me, because it's that, like you said, work ethic, dedication to keep working. He crushed basketball, but then just like the want to learn and the like domination he had to go into things like books and movies, and like also do well in there and like win an Oscar, things like that. Like he didn't, kind of like you said, he was very, very good at like multiple things, not just one, and things like that, which is awesome. And then in terms of, go ahead.
He also kept the main thing. Like,
yeah,
he
did that after basketball, or kept it to the side. He didn't let it distract from that.
Exactly. And he like, listen, he earned the right to go and explore other things.
Yeah.
It was basketball. It was him practicing after the games. It was him shooting around for 6 hours. And then as he achieved that level of ability, then he's able to branch out and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing investor. But it was still basketball at the forefront. I think that was like, again, it's cool to be able to like branch out into other things, but like it's also really, really cool to be really good at one or two things. Especially in this day and age, like we have so many different things that are pulling us in different directions. And this is the most amount of access we've ever had to information. And so you can learn a lot, or a decent amount about a bunch of different things, but like going deep into an area of expertise is actually super important outside of music, right? When you think about AI and productivity and the labor markets and everything like that, it's like, you really, it actually benefits you to like get really, really smart on a few key things and, hone that, right? Like I can't sing. I would like to learn how to produce. I kind of started learning piano last year. Like I know I'm really, really good at bars. Like I know that. And
Mm.
so for me, I can try and produce, learn how to produce. I can try and learn how to DJ and then do graphic design. And, I might try and pick up a few things and ask questions, but like, I still have to like become the best rapper I can possibly be because I owe that to myself and I owe that to the people that are supporting me as opposed to getting distracted and going into a bunch of different avenues.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then is there just like a venue, a festival, whatever it is? Do you have like a bucket list of venues that you want to rap at one day or perform at?
Yeah, I want to do Babies All Right by next year, so 2026. I want to do SOBs by next year. Um, Bigger stages. I mean, I want to do Wireless Festival. That's like a festival in London. It's kind of become a rap festival, but I'm a big fan of that. Obviously, MSG, being from New
Hmm.
York, one of the main ones. And then growing up, I really want to do Webster Hall. It's not, you know, I don't even know if it's open still. I know it closed at one point and kind of brought it back, but Webster Hall for sure. LA, the Forum.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, those are like the big venues where I plan on performing at. So
Yeah. Awesome. And I mean, when you say like these venues by 2026, is that like a plan you got? Like I'm gonna do this to achieve that, or like is it how do you go about like setting these goals and then executing and accomplishing those goals?
yeah, I think for me it's like big lofty goals, right? So I say baby's all right. I'm not sitting here saying like, all right, I'm gonna be performing these songs at this date with this capacity. It's more like, all right, baby's all right is small medium venue. What
Hmm.
do I have to do to grow my following? What type of music do I have to make to be at that stage? So then I make actual items, right? Like I want to grow my following to this. I want to make this type of music. I need to set these dates to shoot this type of content, etc. End of the day, those things, those things are drivers in your ability to sell tickets, right? Um, if you, it's gonna be hard to sell out a baby's all right if you have two people listening to your music, right?
Yeah.
I think it begins and ends with the music though, right? Like your monthly listeners are gonna go down if you're not like I haven't released any album in like 2 years. Just like freestyles here and there because I've been working on the music. So being able to like set a day on the music and say like I'm gonna put this out. These are the streaming goals that we have. This is how we're gonna promote and market the album. This is the type of concept we need. These things will eventually get us to a baby's all right to have this performance, but you have to break things down into actionable items. Because if I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna perform here, and I'm just like
What
waiting,
are you doing to make that happen?
like, yeah, they're gonna call me any day now. It's Tuesday. They should call me by next week. It's like, what do you have to do to get there? And then, if 2026 rolls around, you don't get there, at least you look around and you can say, I actually progressed from when I first
Yeah.
said this. And that's actually the trick of it all, which is, you know, you're driving forward, but and you're running forward, but you actually don't look at where you are until it's time to take a break and reassess. And you look back and you're like, oh, I actually came a long way, as opposed to, I'm running toward this big lofty goal and like I don't know, I just feel like I'm making progress because I'm not getting closer to it. But the whole time you just, you ran a whole marathon. So um,
Yeah.
I think it's like breaking it down to small actionable items is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, the last question I have here is just, I mean, you mentioned kind of an upcoming record earlier on here. What is coming up next for Jacques Laine? Is it an SOP show? Is it a new record? Things like that. Like what can fans kind of expect coming next from you?
Yeah, I I mean, I think, well, one, we're putting together, Ro and I working on a collaboration project
Hmm.
that's it's finished recording, or it was finished being recorded. So now we're mixing and arranging and mastering all this other stuff and shooting a bunch of content for that. It's gonna be highly conceptual. Probably gonna do an in-person activation, but want to highlight the different disciplines of art that exist within music, whether it's like graphic design, short form content, the actual music, putting all these things together to make a seamless experience. Um, because again, like I mentioned before, we consume so many information. We'll go from reading an article to watching a movie on our phones, to listening to an album, to talking to someone on
Yeah.
Facebook, sometimes doing all these things at once. And it's like, all right, how do you make these how do you make these songs and this album easy for people to consume across these different mediums or vehicles? And that's kind of what it's about. It's going to cover the creative journeys that each of us have had the past 2 years. And you know, everyone says this, but like this actually is my best work yet. You know, after I shot the show last year, but even preparation for the show, I do daily writing drills for about like 20, 30 minutes. You know, I do a drill where I time myself. I write anything for like, you know, 2 minutes. Another one where, you know, I give myself 10 minutes to, you know, write a song. Another one where I spend 5 minutes and rhyme the same word over and over and over again. And so like all these things and techniques actually get you sharper, because now I can put a song together way more quickly. I can put a hook together way more quickly, and the quality of it is continuing to improve. So I made that album after Rhythm and Flow, after I finished shooting it, flew to LA, did like a bunch of 8-hour sessions, and we made it from scratch. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's got some 5 records on it. We're mixing it right now. So, yeah, a lot of content, a lot of music. And I'll be on a couple of freestyle platforms too, because people like when I do that. So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear all this that you have coming up. Thank you so much again for giving me some of your time and coming on here. I learned so much and had a great time learning more about you.
yeah, man, likewise, and looking forward to the interview coming up.